Bro, I've been fighting this. I've been fighting this all day.
Opening question, throw it at me first. Throw it at me.
Oh, the game 7?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm definitely throwing it at you.
You're lying.
Much as I hate T, I think I need T.
Wise guys, 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 wise guys. These guys know sports. Yeah. These guys know sports. These guys know.
And welcome to Wise Guys, These Guys Know Sports, live here on the Worldwide Sports Network on this Wednesday, September the 16th, 2020, along with my co-host, Mr. Clarence Nixon. What's up, Clarence?
Hey, what's up, Trey, man? How you doing today on this Wednesday, windy day?
Doing pretty good. It's hump day. Everybody remember going follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Mr. Nixon, how is your hump day treating you?
My hump day been treating me delightful, I'm going to say, because we got some very, very specific topics we got to get into today, because last night was a big shocker into the NBA world, and I'm so pumped for it.
Looks like you got some allergies going on over there, bro. It's that time of year. You know, allergy season when always comes, whether it be fall or spring. It's that time of year. Looks like you kind of dealing with some issues over there, man. You kind of struggling over there, my man.
Nah, man. I'm just crying because the Nuggets actually made it to the Western Conference Finals, man. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. Hey,
oh man.
Hey, we definitely got a jam-packed game today, though, Trey. I want to discuss with you a Game 7 of the Nuggets and the Clippers. And also, we got the Eastern Conference Finals between the Heat and the Nuggets. And also, you personally wanted to get into what is going on with Carson Wentz and the Denver Nuggets. Also, we want to ask everybody. We actually got a vote out today. Who in the 2017 draft, which running back would you take? And also, we can't forget about the best topic of the day, the Thursday night preview of the Bengals and Browns, the Battle of Ohio. We gonna definitely get into that though. But Trey, since you let me start off the show, man. I wanna get into that Game 7 of the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers. Now you see the Denver Nuggets won that game 104-89, and unfortunately, your Clippers hasn't came. You know, Nikola Jokic had a triple-double, 16 points, 22 rebounds, I think 13 assists. Jamal Murray had 40 points. And let me get on to that Clippers side. Kawhi Leonard had 14 points on 6 of 22 shooting, and Paul George had 10 points on 4 of 16 shooting. Actually, they combined for 10 for 36 free field goals, shooting on 24 points. That's terrible. So I'm gonna leave this floor to you, though, Trey. What went wrong in Game 7? Tell me your biggest takeaway in this Game 7 that happened between the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers.
Well, the floor is mine. Okay, well, coming into the season, my championship pick was the Lakers. I had Anthony Davis and LeBron James getting the Lakers to the NBA championship. But as the season went along and I saw the Clippers beat the Lakers and 2 of their 3 meetings that they had this year, I changed my championship pick to the Clippers because if you remember, on opening night, Kawhi and the Clippers beat LeBron and the Lakers. Then on Christmas, Kawhi and the Clippers came back in the second half and they beat LeBron and the Lakers. And then, the meeting before the coronavirus took place, the Lakers won that game. So I ended up changing my pick. Originally, I had the Lakers win the championship and beating the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. But once I seen the 2 teams face off against each other in 2 out of 3 meetings, and I saw the Clippers get the best of the Lakers. I picked the Clippers to win a championship and ultimately win the Battle of LA. But last night, Clarence, as I watched what took place in Game 7 of the Western Conference semifinals between the Clippers and the Nuggets, it was a complete choke job. It was a complete choke job. Make no mistake about it. And the Clippers, honestly, for whatever reason, it seemed like once we got back to basketball and since we've been back playing basketball in the bubble, they really haven't been right ever since. You remember the incident that took place that was, everybody was talking about Lou Williams, how he went to Magic City in Atlanta. And it seemed like once he went to Magic City, Clarence, Lou Williams left his game in the ATL, man, because Lou Williams, he was terrible in this series. In this series against the Denver Nuggets, Lou Williams, I believe he shot like 4 of 27 from three-point range. He was terrible. He shot 3 of 11 from the floor in Game 7, and he was god-awful. He hasn't been the same since he left ATL, and I don't know what the hell is going on with him. He just hasn't really played well overall. What did he have last night? 7 points, 3 of 11 shooting from the floor, 1 of 4 from three-point range. But Lou Williams is not the two best players on this team, Clarence. The two best players on this team is Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And Paul George and Kawhi Leonard last night, they combined to go 10 of 38 shooting from the floor. Paul George went 4 of 16 shooting from the floor. He was 2-11 from three-point range, had 10 points. In the fourth quarter, Clarence, they swung the ball to Paul George. On one particular play, Paul George hit the side of the backboard. I was watching the game, and I was here watching the game at home. I'm in Cincinnati. They in Orlando in the bubble. I had to duck. I was like, oh, man, where's that going? I didn't know where that was going. And then Kawhi Leonard, he was terrible. He shot 6 of 22 shooting from the floor, 2 of 7 from three-point range. He only had 14 points in a closeout game. Your two best players in a closeout game, they only gave the Clippers 24 points. Jamal Murray, he outscored Paul George and Kawhi Leonard by himself. He had 40 points last night and played big. But overall, in the fourth quarter is when your stars have to be stars and make plays for your team to win. And in the fourth quarter last night, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George went 0 of 11 shooting from the floor, and they went 0 of 7 from three-point range. Here's the deal. Kevin Durant lost a 3-1 lead to the juggernaut Golden State Warriors. They went 73-9 that year. Steph Curry and the Warriors lost a 3-1 lead to the great LeBron James, arguably a top 3 player of all time. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Doc Rivers, who I'm going to get to in a minute, they just lost a 3-1 lead to a team that has no championship pedigree on their roster. No player on the Denver Nuggets. Yes, no player on the Denver Nuggets has a championship on their resume. They don't even have championship experience. Paul Millsap, he's only been to the conference finals, but they lost to a bunch of dudes who are dogs and they are playmakers, but they aren't superstars. Like Nikola Jokic, he might be inching his way into that superstar conversation. We're going to talk about him here in a minute, but they lost to a team that doesn't have any players on their roster who's been to an NBA Finals. This is very, very inexcusable. And Doc Rivers, he has to answer some of this bail as well. Doc Rivers, this is the third 3-1 lead he's lost in his career. He's lost 6 3-1 or 3-2 leads in his career, Clarence. And he got completely outcoached by Mike Malone. Like Mike Malone completely outcoached Doc Rivers. And the Clippers lost double-digit leads in Game 5 and Game 6. And last night, they had a 7-point lead in the second half, and the Nuggets went on an 8-0 run. And once the Nuggets went on their run, the Clippers wanted no parts of the Nuggets. No parts whatsoever. And you could tell, I told you this on one Monday show. Remember I told you, I said, if the game gets late and the game is close heading into the fourth quarter, I guarantee you the Clippers are going to feel that pressure. And it happened in the fourth quarter, Clarence. And that's why Paul George and Kawhi Leonard went 0 of 11 shooting from the floor. It is inexcusable. This was a complete choke job. And they're going to have to answer all season long as to why they came short of the expectations. It was a complete choke job by Los Angeles Clippers.
Hey, it's a lot of questions I want to ask you on this general topic though, Trey, because right here I just can see your face. I seen all the statuses you made, and it's just like, wow. You even seen the Undisputed show. Skip had his hand down all through the show.
Yeah.
It's bad. And I want to say this real quick before I ask you a question. Like the Clippers, they started off the fourth quarter 0 for 9. 0 for 9 in the fourth quarter. They couldn't buy a bucket if they wanted to make a layup. So right there was this example of like, where is the identity in this offense? I think that's the problem for the Clippers. I felt like they didn't really have no structure on the offensive side, or they have no like legitimate play style or what they was gonna run through. And I feel like that affected a lot because it just seemed like you just giving it to Kawhi. All right, Kawhi, do what you gotta do. Or Paul George, get open for a 3. They didn't have no identity. Then I wanted to ask you another question too. I want to ask you another question before you start going in, because you have the floor.
Yeah.
Earlier, Doc Rivers said it like the players were fatigued and they didn't want to play no more than 3 minutes in the fourth quarter. Tell me, is that an excuse or that's something that you have to take in consideration?
That's coaching. This is why Doc Rivers deserves part of the blame here. I'm not saying Doc Rivers deserves to be fired, but he deserves to be under the hot seat after this performance. Next season, Steve Ballmer, the owner for the Los Angeles Clippers, I guarantee you, he's going to be looking at Doc Rivers differently next year. He's going to be looking at Doc Rivers like, can you lead this team to a championship? Because in 7 years as being the head coach of the Clippers, he hasn't even led the Clippers to a conference finals appearance. He came up short when the Clippers had CP3 and Blake Griffin. Now he's coming up short, and the Clippers got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. But real quick, I want to get back to Kawhi Leonard real quick, because all season long, Clarence, we heard from Kawhi Leonard fans how Kawhi Leonard deserves to be in that best player in the world conversation. And we heard all year long how Kawhi is better than LeBron James. And again, in 2 out of 3 meetings this year, the Clippers beat the Lakers. So the talks intensified even more. People were saying like, oh, Kawhi, he's here to take the crown away from LeBron James. He is the man in LA now, not LeBron James. Kawhi Leonard, let me give you some of these statistical numbers in this playoff series against the Denver Nuggets. Kawhi Leonard, in the first half, he averaged 14 points per game. In the second half, he averaged 10 points per game. His field goal percentage in the first half was 56% shooting from the floor. In the second half, it was 31% shooting from the floor. His three-point field goal percentage in the first half was 47%. In the second half, 27%. Okay, and then in the fourth quarter of all of these 7 games against the Denver Nuggets, Kawhi Leonard's averaged 5 points per game on 27% shooting from the floor overall, 33% shooting from three-point range. He did hit 9 of 10 free throws in the fourth quarter of these games, but those numbers are not a superstar numbers. Statistically, you need your superstar to step up in these big moments. I don't want to hear no more Kawhi is better than LeBron James talk. No more. Kawhi Leonard is not the best player in the NBA. And I don't even think Kawhi Leonard is better than Kevin Durant. Now, you can disagree with me, but Kevin Durant lost to the 73-9 Golden State Warriors. He lost to the Splash Brothers. This dude just lost to the Denver Nuggets and the Jokic, someone who can't jump higher than me or you, Clarence. I love the Joker. But the Joker ain't got no ups. He just doesn't. So overall, Kawhi Leonard, no more he's better than LeBron James. He's not. LeBron James is the best player in the world. And one more thing, Clarence, before I let you go. I want to go ahead and give LeBron James a round of applause for tonight on Wild Guys. Because LeBron James has won his 4th NBA championship. I'm going to say it right now tonight on the Worldwide Sports Network. LeBron James just captured his 4th NBA championship. He is now 4-6 in the NBA Finals.
You already just merchant it.
Yes, LeBron James and the Lakers will win the championship here in a few weeks. And Anthony Davis gets his first championship as well.
And like you always say, though, man, Trey, the Clippers, the whole Clippers team, even the players that's not even getting to the game, they are losing millions of sleep this offseason. They is losing a lot of sleep in this offseason. But real quick, I want to ask you this. How impressive you are with this Denver Nuggets team. They made it this far, the conference finals since 2009. They actually played the Lakers in 2009 in the Western Conference Final. How impressed you are on this run with the Denver Nuggets?
I'm very impressed with this run the Denver Nuggets are on right now. And this is the second 3-1 deficit that they have overcame this postseason. They're the first team to overcome back-to-back 3-1 deficits in the same playoffs. Like, this is an amazing accomplishment by Mike Malone and his group. I can't say enough about the job that Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic has done leading this Denver Nuggets team. Last night, Jamal Murray, he had 40 points, shot 15 of 26 from the floor, 6 of 13 from three-point range. And in the fourth quarter, it wasn't Kawhi, it wasn't Sweet Lou, it wasn't Paul George. It was Jamal Murray who stole the show in Game 7 with the Western Conference Finals berth on the line, Clarence. Jamal Murray was absolutely sensational last night, and he proved why he deserves to be in that, best players in the NBA on the come up. When we talk about all these young players in the NBA, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Luka, Jason Tatum. I think we got to include Jamal Murray into that conversation after these performances that he's put together in these playoffs. You remember in round 1, they were down 3-1, but Jamal Murray, he went shot for shot with Donovan Mitchell, and he kept the Nuggets in that series. And now we fast forward to this series. In the beginning stages of this series, he was inefficient and he wasn't shooting the ball well. But then he started to notice what we noticed, that the Clippers defense isn't as elite as we thought they were. He started to put the ball on the floor. He got to the rim, got to the free throw line, and created opportunities for others. Last night, he went 4-4 from the free throw strike. So he's done a great job at creating opportunities for others and scoring the basketball when it's called upon. Like, he's done a hell of a job. So Jokic, I believe Jokic also, last night, he only had 16 points, but he had 22 rebounds and 13 assists. I think the Joker is the best passing big man we have in the league. And I think this 1-2 duo between Jokic and Jamal Murray is a duo that we have to look at as future seasons to come as a duo can possibly win a championship, Clarence. I was very impressed with this run that the Denver Nuggets have been on, but it has come to an end because they are running now into LeBron James. And what they just did to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they won't be able to do against LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But nevertheless, it was a great run that they've been on since we've been in the bubble.
So that leads me to my next question, though. That leads to the last question before we go to the next topic. We know Nikola, he's playing like a top player in the Western Conference Finals, and we obviously know he's not a top 5 player. But would you consider him as a top 10 player in the NBA today?
Yes. Right now, the way Joker's playing, right now he is a top 5 player in the NBA. Right now, he's still playing. I mean, let's call it what it is. Kawhi is at home. The Greek Freak is at home. Chris Middleton is at home. Kevin Durant was injured this year and didn't play. Kyrie Irving was injured this year and didn't play. Right now, he's a top 5 player in the NBA who's still playing. Of the 4 teams that's remaining, we talk about the Boston Celtics, Miami Heat. We talk about the Lakers and the Nuggets. Obviously, with the Celtics, we got Jason Tatum. We know what the Miami Heat, we got Jimmy Butler. With the Lakers, is LeBron, Anthony Davis. You can make an argument that the Joker deserves to be on that top 5 players that's still playing list, right? I mean, We'll go number 1, we'll go probably LeBron. Number 2, probably Anthony Davis. After that, probably Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum. I think the Joker deserves to be number 5 right now on that list.
You know what's funny? That's the exact list what I had. Trey. You're reading mindset. And I think he is like a top player that you have to recognize in the NBA because he's one of the best. In my eyes, he's one of the best big men in the game because he's not athletic, but he's skill set it enough. Like, because when defenders are guarding him, they trying to figure out, is he going to look for the pass or he's shooting the ball? So he gives them 2 options when they defending him. And I truly believe that, like, you can win a championship with this guy. Like how he's a hard worker, him and Jamal Murray. I expect something big for them in the future. But one more thing. So what's next for the Los Angeles Clippers for this offseason? What's next?
Well, it's a possibility they might lose Montrezl Harrell and Marcus Morris to free agency. We'll see what happens. But their team, for the most part, will be back next year. And their main core will be back. But if they don't get it done next year, Clarence, you can make a legitimate argument that they're going to break this team up because I think Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, they could have signed 4-year deals, when they signed with the Clippers last offseason, but they signed 2-year deals. So I think they got player opt-outs, after next season. So if they don't get it done next year, they in trouble, and it's not going to get any easier. You know, they just lost to the Denver Nuggets, an up-and-coming team, you know, that's going to gain more playoff experience now that they're in the Western Conference Finals, you know. So this is a team that if they don't get it done next year, they might be broken up. But the thing is, I'm just so disappointed because I chose these guys to win the NBA championship, so they messed up my damn prediction. But overall, when it comes to the Clippers, this team, you know, they all year long, they barked, but they never really bite anyone. Like, they always bark, but never bite. And I love CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard last night on Twitter because I don't know if you were seeing it last night. Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, they was going back and forth. They was talking about the Clippers. And Damian Lillard said to Patrick Beverley, basically essentially saying, like, hey, I haven't booked my reservations for Cancun yet. If you want to join me, you still can. You know, there's still time, Patrick Bev. If you want to join me in Cancun, I still got time. So let me know. So I just thought that was funny last night, how CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard made fun of the Clippers, because you remember earlier in the bubble during the seeding games when Damian Lillard missed those 2 free throws and my Blazers lost to the Clippers, you saw Patrick Bev and you saw Paul George making fun of Damian Lillard, talking trash to Dame. And so Dame got his get back last night at them brothers last night. So it was funny watching that. Did you see that?
Yeah, man, they was trolling. I know the Clippers got a lot of memes headed to them yesterday. Like yesterday, they were saying that big shout out to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They combined 24 points, mentioning Kobe Bryant. I'm like, oh wow, man. And it's just sad that they couldn't get the job done. But like you said, they wasn't full synced into the season. I feel like they played hard when they played against the Lakers. Every other team, they didn't matter how they played, because at the end of the day, the Lakers is the biggest challenge to them. And this Clippers team, they've been cursed for a long, long, long time.
Oh, here you go. This was David Lillard. He said, I guess I should extend this Cancun invite since I haven't made my arrangements yet. That's what he was saying to Patrick Beverley. And then here goes CJ McCollum saying, I'll bring the wine, weather nice as ever too. And then he said, this was CJ McCollum. He said, my last tweet before I finish this glass. They did vote. They didn't want to play no more. But I didn't think they was going to go out like that. Yeah, so everyone is really clowning the Los Angeles Clippers right now, man.
Kawhi and Paul George, they should deserve all of that, because at the end of the day, you two guys are the future franchise of this franchise, man. Franchise players of this franchise. Last night was unacceptable. And from Kawhi Leonard, you looking at him like, well, you struggled all in second half in these series, but 14 points and 10 points, unacceptable, Trey.
And then here's the thing. All year long, we saw the Clippers, they had this formula for load management. Well, I felt like if you're going to have load management throughout the regular season, you damn sure better win the NBA championship. If you're going to be load managing, and if people bringing their kids to watch the Clippers play and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are sitting out, well, you damn sure better win the NBA championship. They didn't get it done. So their entire formula and their entire experiment failed, because LeBron James, make no mistake about it, he show up every single night and he's ready to ball out for his particular team, whether it be the Lakers, whether it was when he was at the Cavaliers or when he was with the Miami Heat. LeBron James, he always showed up. And that's one of the things that I think we also need to say about Kawhi Leonard, because if you remember, people were saying if Kawhi wins this championship, obviously it would have been his 3rd finals MVP with the 3rd different franchise. Now, if it was going to elevate him if he won a championship, if you go out in the 2nd round, doesn't that take away from your legacy as well? Like, we're talking about Kawhi Leonard. He also doesn't have no NBA MVPs on his resume. And again, this load management thing doesn't sit well with some people. Like, the thing about Kobe, the thing about MJ, the thing about LeBron, what makes those guys great was every single night we knew they were going to play and they were going to put up elite statistical numbers. They were going to show up and they were going to put on a show for the fans. Kawhi Leonard doesn't do that. Kawhi Leonard shows up some nights and he has DMPs next to his name because he's load managing. If you're going to load manage, you damn sure better win the NBA championship because you well rested. There ain't no excuses. You got 4 months off because of the coronavirus pandemic. There ain't no excuses. But Doc Rivers making up excuses talking about, oh, well, there were players in the 4th quarter who were tired and needing to come out and only could run for about 3 minutes? No, we don't want to hear those excuses. These brothers had 4 months off. They had 4 months off. And then you heard Paul George say, well, we basically, this wasn't a championship or bust season. The hell with that, Paul George? That's a cop-out. That's a cop-out, Paul George. We don't want to hear this was championship or bust. With the roster that you put together, this is championship or bust. This is the NBA. The NBA, when you sign free agents to your team, you have championship expectations your first season together. That was a cop-out excuse from Paul George in that press conference yesterday, Clarence. I don't know what the hell what he was talking about. Like, come on now. Ain't no damn excuse.
It's funny because AD and LeBron, they in their first year playing together too, and they're on the way to a final. So that's a lot of double standards right there.
Yeah, let's move on and let's go to the Eastern Conference, Clarence. Enough about those Clipper clowns. Let's go to the NBA playoff recap. Let's go to the Eastern Conference. The Miami Heat beat the Boston Celtics in overtime, 117-114 in Game 1 of their Eastern Conference Finals battle. Miami leads the series 1-0. Gordon Dragic led the way for the Miami Heat with 29 points, shot 11 of 19 from the field, 7 rebounds. Jimmy Butler contributed 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Jay Crowder also had 22 points, went 5 of 9 from three-point range, 5 rebounds. Jason Tatum led the way for the Celtics with 30 points. Marcus Smart had 26 points, and Kemba Walker had 19.6 assists. So as we begin this segment in the Eastern Conference, Clarence, what is your biggest takeaway from Game 1 between the Celtics and the Heat?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway from this game is they took away Duncan Robinson's shooting ability, because he didn't necessarily shot the ball good, and they had to basically find another rotating player that can shoot the ball. Like, believe it or not, Jay Crowder has been a great addition to this Miami team because with his versatile defending and 3-point shooting, it really benefited the team a lot. And for Jimmy Butler, it benefited him as well too because he lead by example, and he's basically setting up other players to score. Or if he has a shot, he's taking the shot. They just playing wonderful team ball. And on the other end for the Boston Celtics is when is Kemba Walker is gonna stop? When he's gonna get out these shooting slumps? Like he shot out. He's played okay through this whole playoff, the NBA playoffs, in my opinion. He played okay in this thing because every games he caught fire, and other game he's struggling bad. And then in the Eastern Conference Final, you can't be struggling bad, shooting up, jacking up shots. This is the Eastern Conference Final. This is your first ever Eastern Conference Final. So for you to have that type of format, it can't happen again. For Marcus Smart, I accepted his 6 of 13 shooting for the 3 because it benefited him out too. I feel like Marcus Smart and Kemba Walker, they balance out that team a lot on the offensive side and defensive side because they have a lot of scores on their team to spread around. And for Jason Tatum, he's just been phenomenal. He's been the leader. He almost had a triple-double. He could have snuck his way to another triple-double. 30 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists. That's a brilliant stat line right there. But Big Bam out of Bio, he came with the clutch dunk, and I thought that dunk right there was impressive. Now, Miami, they in the driver's seat right now with the leading the series 1-0. Can the Boston Celtics get out them shooting slumps and get back into this series? Because when a team go down 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals, the odds are against you. And believe it or not, Toronto was down 2-0 with Kawhi Leonard last year against the Milwaukee Bucks, and they fought all the way back in. Now I really want to see, can the Boston Celtics fight back into this series and take over?
Yeah, we're going to see what happens. But my biggest takeaway was, once again, the Miami Heat, they showed their balanced scoring attack. In this matchup, I think Gordon Dragic, he had, 29 points. Jimmy Butler had 20 points. Bam Adebayo contributed 18 points. Jay Crowder had 18 points. So overall, Jay Crowder had 22 points. Let me not steal my man short. Jay Crowder had 22. Bam Adebayo had 18. And Duncan Robinson, he only had 6 points, went 2 of 7 from three-point range. But overall, the Miami Heat, their balanced scoring attack is what propelled them to this Game 1 victory over the Boston Celtics. I thought late in the game, Jimmy Butler, he made a few more plays than Jason Tatum. Although Jason Tatum, he also had a good game as well. He had 30 points, so he also had a good game. But I thought Jimmy Butler had made a few more plays late in that game, and I thought Miami executed down the stretch better than the Boston Celtics. And I told you this yesterday on our live. I said, when it comes to a big moment in this series, although I love Jason Tatum and I believe he's on the come up and I think he's a future superstar in the NBA, I trust an NBA all-time great player like Jimmy Butler more so right now, because Jimmy Butler, in those key moments yesterday, he made key plays for the Miami Heat. And I thought once the game got to overtime, I just knew the Miami Heat were going to pull it out because they are a mentally strong basketball team, Clarence. Like, they don't go away. They kind of look, they're the Eastern Conference version of the Denver Nuggets. Similar to like how Denver play, the Miami Heat are the same way. They don't go away. Whenever they're down on the scoreboard, you can never count them out. That speaks to the championship DNA of this team. They are led by Eric Spoelstra. He is a coach who's won championships with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. So he knows what it takes to win in the NBA playoffs. And I think when his team gets down in these playoff games, I think Eric Spoelstra does a great job with still remaining patient and running his offense to an efficient rate so they can get into their sets. They can hit quality shots and still hit the perimeter shots to keep them afloat and keep them close. So therefore, when it gets close in the end, Jimmy Butler can take over for the team. So I thought the game was won late, you know, in the regulation and in overtime by the Miami Heat. But also I want to give Bam a lot of credit for that game-saving block on Jason Tatum, because I thought Jason Tatum was going to tie the game up on that breakaway lane that it opened up for him, and he got blocked at the rim by Bam. I think it was one of the best blocks we've seen in NBA playoff history, although LeBron's block over Iggy had more of an impact because of where they were in the game. That was late in the fourth quarter. That was late in overtime. But this is game one. That was game 7. So everybody been talking about, oh, my God, this block was better than LeBron's block over Iggy. I disagree, because if LeBron doesn't block Iggy's shot in that game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals, it's a legitimate chance the Warriors win that game. So I think that block was great, but it wasn't as significant as LeBron's block in the 2016 NBA Finals.
Yeah, I think that block right there is the second greatest block I ever seen in NBA history, behind LeBron James, because believe it or not, his hand was inside the rim and he just pulled it out. And it's like, wow, that's a lot of upper body strength right there, Trey. I honestly, if I'm getting dunked on and that ball is like literally inches away from the rim, I'm just like, hey man, this is a free dunk. But in clutch time, you gonna do whatever it takes to stop the defender. But yeah, I think. Oh no,
I was gonna say Tyler Hero. I want to shout him out as well. He had 12 points. He shot 2 of 5 from 3-point range with 5 of 10 shooting overall from the floor. He had some big time shots late too. Tyler Hero stepped up, and I think Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, they are X factors in this series. If Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson shoot the lights out, the Miami Heat will advance to the NBA Finals. But like I said, Duncan Robinson, he only had 6 points yesterday. He didn't shoot the ball particularly well. But I think Tyler Hero, you know, him hitting those big shots ultimately helped the Miami Heat get the victory as well.
And believe it or not, though, Duncan Robinson is their best shooter, though. But if he has an off game, you can look somewhere else. You can look somewhere else to who can shoot the ball. Jay Crowder, Goran Dragic, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, even Bam Adebayo if they look good. But me personally, I wanted to shout out Goran Dragic, bro, because he's been phenomenal this whole playoffs, bro. Like, nobody don't have no answer for him. He's dropping, averaging about 20 to 25 points a game, and he's just been dominant for this Heat team. He's been one of the vocal leaders on this team with Jimmy Butler, because in these situations you have to have a leader, a vocal leader to lead the way. And him and Jimmy Butler is doing a phenomenal job. And he was 11 for 19, so he's a very efficient scorer with 7 assists right there. I think the Boston Celtics, they need to find an answer for Goran Dragic, because sometimes all the attention is not always on Jimmy Butler or no Bam Adebayo. Goran Dragic is taking off. He is literally like doing great into this playoff streak.
Yeah, and I think in order for the Boston Celtics to win this series, they need Kemba Walker to outplay Goran Dragic. And Goran Dragic, in the first game, he got the best of Kemba Walker. Dragic had 29 points. Kemba Walker only had 19 points. Dragic shot 11 of 19 from the floor, 3 of 6 from 3-point range. Kemba Walker, on the other hand, he shot 6 of 19 from the floor and went 1 of 9 from 3-point range. So I think in order for the Boston Celtics to win this series, they need Kemba Walker to outplay Goran Dragic. That's a key matchup that I'm looking at the rest of this series, Clarence, because whichever one of these point guards outplays the other, I think that particular point guard's team is going to win. So last night you saw Dragic outplay Kemba Walker, and we saw Miami got the win. So I think that's a key matchup in this series as well. But I think it's time for the Boston Celtics to see if Gordon Hayward is going to be available for game 2 or any other games coming up in this series, because I think they need Gordon Hayward's 18 points per game on 50% shooting from the floor. I think they need him as another scoring option in these Eastern Conference playoffs. I think he'll definitely add, to this team, and he's going to add some scoring that they need. Marcus Smart is doing a hell of a job as well, too, though, because Marcus Smart had 26 points, and he shot 6 of 13 from 3-point range. I can't say enough about the job that Marcus Smart has done being that perimeter shooter that the Boston Celtics have needed, because last night, Jason Tatum only went 4 of 12 from 3-point range. Jaylen Brown, he went, 3 or 4 from 3-point range. He did a great job shooting the 3 last night, but overall, Marcus Smart has stepped up in the absence of Gordon Hayward. But I think adding Gordon Hayward would definitely help the Boston Celtics and add more scoring to this team, and it's going to help them possibly win games in this series.
So let's make this quick. Any adjustments that the Boston Celtics need to make for game 2?
I think they need to try to do a better job of defending Goran Dragic. Again, he had 29 points, shot 11 of 19 from the field. They need to do a better job of trying to defend Goran Dragic and limit his scoring, because when he gets it going, I think that leads to the other Miami Heat players getting in a rhythm, and that's why you see the balanced scoring. You see Jay Crowder dropping 22 points. You see Bam dropping 18 points. You see Jimmy Butler with 20 points. Although I think Jimmy Butler's the best player on this team, make no mistake about it, Goran Dragic leads these players, and he puts everyone in position to be successful. He is a true point guard. Well, when he's scoring the ball as well, along with getting others involved, I think it makes the Miami Heat unbeatable. So I think the Boston Celtics need to do a better job of containing Goran Dragic in order to have a chance to win this series.
Yeah, I think the biggest adjustment that the Boston Celtics they should make is tighten up the defense, because believe it or not, they're the number one ranked defense into this playoffs, and Marcus Smart has helped balance out that defense, because him stealing the ball, being intercepted, and just being there when needed, he's been phenomenal, and he's been great for this team. And they need to balance out the defensive side so they can slow down the score up from Goran Dragic and Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jay Crowder, Bam Adebayo. I think they need to strengthen the defense more.
Yeah, and I think Boston, you're right. Their defense has to get better, because they gave up 48 points in the paint, and they only got 26 points themselves. I think in order for the Boston Celtics to have any chance at winning this series, they can't have the Miami Heat dominating the paint 48-26. That's a plus 22 in points in the paint advantage to the Miami Heat. That cannot happen if the Boston Celtics won't have any chance. I think Brad Stevens will make the adjustments. I told you, I think this is a great coaching matchup, although I do give the slight edge to Eric Spoelstra. I think this is a nice coaching matchup between Brad Stevens and Eric Spoelstra. I expect Brad Stevens to make the necessary adjustments for the Boston Celtics to have a chance to win in game 2 and even up this series, because they go down 2-0 to the Miami Heat, they in trouble, Clarence.
So who wins game 2 tomorrow, Trey?
I told you I got the Boston Celtics getting to the NBA Finals, and I'm going to stay with that pick. I think in order for them to have a chance to win this series, they must win game 2. I thought game 1 was a game the Boston Celtics could have won, but I thought down the stretch in the fourth quarter and in the overtime, I think the Miami Heat, they executed better offensively. So I think in order for the Boston Celtics to win this series, they have to win game 2. They can't go down 0-2 to the Miami Heat. If they go down 0-2 to the Miami Heat, I don't see them winning 4 out of the next 5 games. Not over this Miami Heat team. So I think they have to win game 2 tomorrow night. It is a must win for Boston, and I think they're going to get it done, in game 2 and have this series evened up at 1 game apiece as we head into game 3, which will be Saturday night.
I just think that this Miami team, man, they just like everything that you want. You got the perfect coach. You got the great superstar in Jimmy Butler, and you have a lot of 3-point shooters and versatile defenders on that team, and a young big man in Bam Adebayo, and a solid bench play. And I think that factors in their victory into game 1, because they had everything loaded. everything loaded on their end. Like they had bench play, coaching, and players that can swap in and out, and that can come in and play a long period of time. I think that right there is the chemistry for the working chemistry for them as to win another one. But I'm taking the Heat. I think the Heat go win tomorrow for the simple fact that they shoot the three ball phenomenal and they can defend real well, and they're a good transition team. They like to run in transition, get a lot of shots off, and like to hurry up back on defense. So I'm taking the Miami Heat in this one, man. Even though I still got Boston winning the series, but in order for Boston to wake up, I think they got to go down two to realize, like, damn, this Heat team is nothing to play with. But I got the Heat.
But see, I disagree. I think if they go down 2-0, the series could be over. You know, and you said the 3-point shot is critical. And game one, the Miami Heat made 16 3-point shots. The Boston Celtics made 15. So there wasn't no huge difference in 3-point shots made, although the Boston Celtics did attempt 6 more 3-point shots than the Miami Heat overall. But in this game, the Boston Celtics at one point led by 14 points. I told you, the Miami Heat, they are the Denver Nuggets in the Eastern Conference. They are a resilient bunch. Like, wherever you got them down, for whatever reason, they elevate their game and they execute better offensively. It is a true testament to how great of a coach Eric Spoelstra is, because when they're down, they don't panic. They remain calm and they run through their offensive sets and they get quality shots and it gets them back in ball games. And that's exactly what happened yesterday in game one. Boston Celtics leading by 14 at one point. You would think the game would be over. Not going up against this Miami Heat squad. But we'll talk about that more on Friday night show. Let's transition to some NFL, and let's talk about this Thursday night football primetime matchup, the Battle of Ohio, as the Cincinnati Bengals will travel up north to the Cleveland Browns, and they're going to take on the Browns Thursday night at 8:20. It's going to be on NFL Network, and if you're here in Cincinnati, it's going to be on Channel 12. So, Clarence, Battle of Ohio, Browns versus the Bengals, you know, in Cleveland's house this time. Give me some of your keys in this matchup.
I think the keys for the matchup for the Bengals, like, I've been watching them since week one. I watched them week one last week. I think they got to stop Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. I think that is the most important thing they need to do, because they're a good running football team and they can get outside very quick, and they very versatile on catching the passes too. I think that front seven needed enough to pressure Baker Mayfield to make him struggle into the game, because believe it or not, him and Odell, I just think their chemistry is not, they don't work together. I'm saying it right now. I think Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr. Chemistry is way off. Because if you look at the stat sheet, Jarvis Landry caught all his targets. Alex Hooper caught all his targets. Higgins caught all his targets. Rashad Higgins. And Odell, he only caught 3 out of 10 passes. I think that chemistry right there is junked up, because he be so excited because he wanted to throw it to Odell, but it doesn't work. But my keys for the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield has to get it going. He has to get it going for this Browns team. They literally the best. They're one of the best talented teams in the NFL. They have a nice talent on their offensive side, but Baker Mayfield has to get involved with the game. This is a Battle of Ohio. This game is a personal game for both teams, because they're both 0-1 and they trying to steal a victory on Thursday night. But Baker Mayfield has to get involved of the game. What's your key?
Okay. I got 2 keys for each team, you know, heading into this Thursday night matchup. I'm going to start off with the Cleveland Browns. In week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens, Baker Mayfield, he went 21 of 39, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Kevin Stefanski, let you know right now, you are not going to keep your job, sir, as head coach of the Cleveland Browns if you got Baker Mayfield dropping back the pass 39 times. I told you, Clarence, before the season, in order for the Browns to have any chance of winning football games this year, you can't have Baker Mayfield drop back the pass 35 plus a game. It can't happen. Like, I think Baker Mayfield should drop back the pass maybe 20 or 25 times at the most. This team, in order for this team to be successful, they need to lean on Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. That's who have to lead them to victory. It can't be Baker Mayfield, okay? Kevin Stefanski, your job is to put Baker in positions to be successful. You can't have him dropping back to pass 39 times. He is not Aaron Rodgers. He is not Russell Wilson. He is not Patrick Mahomes. You cannot put the game in Baker Mayfield's hands. Okay, so that's one of my keys. I think they have to limit how many times they have Baker Mayfield drop back to pass. I think they need to lean on the running game. My other key for the Cleveland Browns is going to be get Odell Beckham the football. Like, what the hell is going on with Odell Beckham right now? Odell Beckham is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. And week 1, he only had 3 receptions for 22 receiving yards. He had 10 targets, but only 3 receptions. What the hell is going on? How can't you get Odell Beckham, a top 5 receiver in the NFL, the football? Listen, Cleveland, if you don't want to get Odell Beckham involved in the offense, trade him to my Packers. Aaron Rodgers will take him. Devontae Adams, he'll love to have him on the other side with him. Okay? Like, what is going on with the Cleveland Browns? Kevin Stefanski needs to get Odell Beckham the football somehow, some way. Those are my keys for the Cleveland Browns. Lean on a running game with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb and get Odell Beckham the football. For the Bengals, I think one of the keys is going to be Joe Burrow has to protect the football. I told you in week 1 and the fourth quarter, that turnover was a bad turnover clearance, and it took the Bengals out of their offensive rhythm. I think they had the rhythm at that moment, and I think that turnover, when he tried to do that flea flicker, it didn't work. You can't do that in the NFL, Joe. I think Joe Burrow played pretty well in week 1 against the Chargers clearance, but he must protect the football for the Bengals to have any chance of winning games. My other key for the Cincinnati Bengals is going to be, can they create pressure on Baker Mayfield? If you pressure Baker Mayfield, I think you can force Baker Mayfield into turning the football over. He might even fumble the ball a couple times in the pocket. So I think that's going to be key. Can they force Baker Mayfield into turning the football over by applying pressure on him? Dunlap, Geno Atkins, if he plays, they need to apply pressure up front on Baker Mayfield. Therefore, they can get the ball back for Joe Burrow and have more opportunities to put up points.
Now, I was thinking to myself now, who is for Burrow? I think for Zach Taylor in this situation, he has to let Burrow throw the ball. And you have to let him play. You have to let him get his feet wet. I think that's the point I forgot to mention. You have to let him get his feet wet, Trey, in order for him to get the feeling of the NFL game. The NFL game is going to be there. I think, honestly, I'm going to be real honest with you. This is a huge testament season for the Cincinnati Bengals. They're playing with house money. They're playing with nothing to lose. I think this is a testament for the season of how
you said they were going to the playoffs. You said they were going to be 9-7, which means they have expectations. According to you, hold on, wait a minute. According to you, they're going to be 9-7, which means they have expectations. They're not playing with house money. What are you talking about?
Well, I said they could be 9-7 at best, and they can make a shot at the playoff. But if I'm really realistic thinking, I think this is a big testament season for them.
Oh, now you realistically thinking, huh? Now you weren't realistically thinking that day when we talked about what was you was. I know it. You didn't want to admit it that day. I said you picking with your heart here. This is not your football, man. I said
I don't like the way how you talk about the Bengals. It hurts me to the fullest. But think about it. I think this is a big testament for the Cincinnati Bengals on how all this gonna play out, and they're gonna find their problems into this season and get better for next season or the third season. But I want to ask you this though: who you have as the better? Which quarterback is the better matchup? Which quarterback has the better matchup, the better advantage between Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield?
Oh, Joe Burrow. I think, and we heading into week 2, I will give the quarterback advantage to Joe Burrow. And again, in week 1, he went 23 of 36, 193 passing yards. He had one bad interception. He led the Cincinnati Bengals on their last drive, and he put them in position to tie the game. With that, it was just a bad field goal, that the Bengals missed. But I think Joe Burrow put the Bengals in position to get the overtime. The field goal unit just didn't execute. He also possibly had a touchdown pass to A.J. Green that would have won the game for the Bengals had the ref not called that offensive pass interference. I think that was a bang-bang play. I think if there were fans in the stand, I don't think they make that call on A.J. Green, honestly, Clarence. But they made the call nevertheless. I think Joe Burrow actually impressed me with his first performance as a rookie in week 1. I'm not impressed with Baker Mayfield. And I told you before, this is a put up or shut up year for Baker Mayfield.
I agree.
Okay? I think if Baker Mayfield doesn't get his act together, I think it's a great chance that the Cleveland Browns will be looking for a future quarterback in the draft next season. I mean, in week 1, he went 21 of 39, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. With these weapons, that is inexcusable. You're supposed to be balling for the Cleveland Browns right now. You have a nice running back core in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. So why can't Baker Mayfield get his act together? We've had Hugh Jackson as a head coach. Then it was Freddie Kitchens. Now it's Kevin Stefanski. At some point, Clarence, there is a common denominator, and that's the reason why the Cleveland Browns aren't successful offensively. It's not always on the head coach. At some point, we have to place some of the blame on Baker Mayfield's shoulders. And the reason why I'm placing some of that blame on his shoulders is because Baker Mayfield chirped a lot. He always chirping. He always got a lot to say. If you remember, he's had public feuds with Colin Cowherd of FS1. He always got something to say to somebody in the media. Baker Mayfield, you need to shut the hell up, and you need to play football this year at a high level for the Browns, or you might be looking for another job next year or the season after that if you don't get your act together. And the Browns are going to be picking in the draft, trying to find them a future franchise quarterback.
Well, in the offseason too, though, Trey, Baker Mayfield said he's staying away from the media, ain't gonna let his talent talk for himself. So that is something that we are keeping a big eye on. But I think you also have to tell Kevin Stefanski, you have to learn how to cool down Baker Mayfield, slow down his tempo, his mindset. You have to be the coach to help him get through this season, because, like you said, I don't believe it was none of the coaches' fault. I believe it was Baker Mayfield. He had like an ego problem that stopped him from performing on the football field. But for Kevin Stefanski, he has to cool down Baker Mayfield mindset for him to get into football in the football mode instead of worry about the critics. Now this right here shows if the Cleveland Browns lose this game tomorrow, I'm guaranteeing you that everybody gonna be questioning Baker Mayfield play and Kevin Stefanski play calling or just mindset. Now I just think Stefanski need to work with him and to help develop him more. Don't turn him to something that he ain't. Like he has to monitor. He needs to monitor him, monitor his ego, and monitor his gameplay.
Yeah, and I think too, one thing I do want to see Joe Burrow improve on is his deep ball accuracy. He did miss AJ Green on a potential touchdown pass, in that game against the Chargers, Clarence, on Sunday. He missed John Ross on a few throws as well deep. So I want to see Joe Burrow do a better job of accurately throwing the ball deep down the field, because that's going to definitely open up things for that Bengals offense. But he's going to be comfortable in this game in Cleveland because he's from Ohio. So he's going to be comfortable. I'm pretty sure he's probably going to get a home-cooked meal from some of his family members, somewhere in Ohio, whether it be tonight or tomorrow before the game. So Joe Burrow's going to be pretty comfortable tomorrow in this Thursday night matchup in the Battle of Ohio between the Browns and the Bengals. So we're going to see what happens. But before we move on, who wins this game tomorrow night? Give me a score. Give me a team who wins.
Okay, I'm not being biased, but I'm being biased. I have the Cincinnati Bengals winning this game in a close one. Not no blowout, not no 7 point. I think this game right here is going to come down to the two quarterbacks of each team. Which quarterback is going to lead their team to victory? But I got Cincinnati winning this one in a tight one. 24-21 Cincinnati.
I would like to think at some point Baker Mayfield will get his act together. And I would like to think that at some point Kevin Stefanski will put Baker Mayfield in positions to be successful. I think that happens in week 2. I think the Cleveland Browns are going to get into a rhythm offensively. I also think that Odell Beckham will have a breakout game in week 2 against your Bengals, Clarence. I think the Cleveland Browns will beat the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20 tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football in the Battle of Ohio in Cleveland, Ohio. So I'm going to pick the Browns to win.
Going.
Yes, I got the Browns winning. I'm going to pick the Browns to win 23-20. I think Odell Beckham's going to have a breakout game. I think Odell Beckham is going to prove why he's universally recognized as a top 5 receiver in the NFL. And I think Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are also going to contribute on tomorrow's victory for the Cleveland Browns. They're going to contribute a lot tomorrow night. And I think the Bengals are going to struggle to stop Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Oh, Lord, man. I can't believe that. You had me going thinking you're talking so good about Cincinnati, but you picked the rival team to beat the home team. Ridiculous.
I know. I mean, they both had bad losses in week one, but I thought the Bengals showed promise. I think the Browns had the worst loss. They got beat down by the Ravens. I mean, it was a beat down. But I told you this year, when the Bengals play the Ravens, they're going to get beat down too. That's what Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens do.
Trey. We ain't talking about that game. We ain't going to get into that game right now. Baltimore is on fire right now. I don't want to think about them until week 5. Now you got it in my head now. God. You got it in my head.
Let's move on. Let's talk about one more topic before we get out of here. This topic is titled "A Bird Not in His Nest." On Sunday, the Philadelphia Eagles blew a 17-point lead against the Washington football team and eventually lost 27-17. Carson Wentz was sacked 8 times and threw 2 interceptions. He went 24 of 42, 270 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 bad interceptions. So I wanted to talk about Carson Wentz tonight on the show. And I brought this topic to you, Clarence. And I said, like, what the hell is going on with Carson Wentz? And you know, last year, the Philadelphia Eagles last year, they won the division and they won the NFC East and had a playoff berth, and they lost in a wild card matchup to the Seattle Seahawks. And I told you that I think Carson Wentz is one of the best quarterbacks we have in the NFL. I said, we always talk about Patrick Mahomes. We always talk about Lamar Jackson. We always talk about, Deshaun Watson. We need to start talking about Carson Wentz. And we know Carson Wentz had an MVP caliber season during that year when he tore his ACL. He had 27 touchdowns, I think like 7 interceptions. He was outstanding last year. This loss against the Washington football team was a bad loss. It was a bad loss for Carson Wentz. I don't know what the hell happened to Carson Wentz. He got sacked 8 times, but for some reason in the second half, he was careless with the football, Clarence. He had 2 interceptions, and he had some fumbles in this game. Like, he has to take care of the football better. That was one of the issues that Carson Wentz critics had with him last year, was that he didn't take care of the ball. He always fumbled the ball in the pocket. He has to do a better job of taking care of the football and putting the Eagles in position to win football games. There is no reason in hell you should lose a 17-point lead to the Washington football team. Are you kidding me? A team that's tanking, a team that is picked to finish last in the NFC East? How the hell you lose a 17-point lead to the Washington football team? It shouldn't have happened, and Carson Wentz deserves majority of the blame here. I expect better results from Carson Wentz in week 2, Clarence. I expect him to bounce back and lead the Philadelphia Eagles to a victory in week 2.
Look, now that you mentioned week 2, the game is at home against the Los Angeles Rams. So I think for Carson Wentz, he has to show up. He has to show up, Trey, because believe it or not, he already leading the league with turnovers, and he's been sacked 8 times. That's the most so far into this football season.
Yeah, and last year I gave him excuses because I knew they were depleted. They had so many injuries on that team that I gave him an excuse. I said, hey, it's a lot of injuries on this team. I give him credit just for having the Eagles in position to make the playoffs and compete for the NFC East crown with the Cowboys. So I was giving him a lot of credit last year, and I gave him a pass for some of those turnovers. There are no excuses this year, Mr. Carson Wentz. I expect Carson Wentz to bounce back in week 2 against the Rams, Clarence. I expect him to show why he should be in that conversation as to being one of the best young quarterbacks we have in the NFL, along with Deshaun Watson, along with Lamar Jackson, along with Patrick Mahomes. We'll talk more about Carson Wentz on Friday's show for sure, because we're going to give our week 2 predictions, and we're going to talk about game 2 between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. Everybody, remember, go and follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H, also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. This is Wise Guys live on the Worldwide Sports Network. Clarence, you got any closing thoughts?
Who they? Let's get this W tomorrow, baby.
Browns 23-20.
Oh my God, Trey.
What's your score?
I got the Bengals 24-21.
Close game. We'll see y'all Friday nights. Enjoy Thursday night football in the Battle of Ohio between the Browns and the Bengals. Everybody have a good night.